Hey guys, this is Micha from DIFFUS magazine, and I am currently up at 260 Degrees rooftop bar in Berlin, Germany, right next to Virtue Music Hall, where the British indie band Foals is going to play tomorrow actually. And I'm up here because I'm about to meet up with Yannis from Foals, who have just released their brand new album Life is Yours. Before we get into the interview, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And now, without further ado, let's meet up with Yannis and get talking. Let's go. How are you doing, Yannis?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's nice to be back in Berlin. Yeah, nice to be playing a show here, and yeah, just being out of the UK feels like a novelty at the moment.
Yeah, like a brand new thing, right? So you're playing Virtue Music Hall tomorrow, which is part of a bigger tour that's going to last until July, I think, right?
Yes.
And you've started back in like late April in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And have those been your first shows post-COVID?
We played like 4 shows last summer, just in the UK. We had like 2 festivals and 2 of our own shows, but they were, you know, they didn't feel like fully back to normal. You know, there was still a kind of a timidity in the crowd, slightly, and also it was only 4 shows and we didn't have any new music out.
Yeah.
So this is the first proper tour since COVID, definitely.
I see. And so how's it been, like playing live after such a long absence? Like, do you feel normal? Does everything feel back to normal, or do you feel differently? Does the crowd act or react in a different way?
So I think that the thing that was kind of surprising to us was how quickly being on stage felt normal again for us as performers. You know, I had some anticipation that maybe like I would feel slightly strange playing a show again. But actually, if anything, it's reaffirmed how part of my life and how much it's part of our lives to be performers and be on stage.
How much you need that, right? Yeah,
it felt so natural. Within about half a song, it was just like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. The things that have changed maybe are that I definitely feel like kind of more of an appreciation or a renewed appreciation of what it is to be a musician. And there's been an energy at these shows that has been like definitely so euphoric and ecstatic. I think just at people being in a room together, in a crowd, getting to, I think that you can almost see like 2 songs into the show that people are like, oh, this is really happening now. Yeah. You know, I can feel the energy left.
It's real life. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been amazing. It really has been cool.
Yeah, that's what I noticed as well. Like as a like a person in the crowd, in the audience, I feel like everybody's just like very hungry for music, for entertainment, and like the audience, but the musicians as well, right?
Yeah.
And so speaking of the pandemic and everything, it's a really important topic as well, because your album, which will be out when this airs, Life is Yours, it kind of got really shaped by the pandemic or by lockdown, right? And so let's take one step further back first, because I think when the pandemic first hit, you guys were in the middle of an Asia tour, right?
Yes.
And so can you remember how that was for you as a band, like those first few weeks or days of COVID being around?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely remember. It was crazy. We were in London, and there had been news reports about you know, the virus starting, and I think, you know, obviously somewhat naively we thought, oh well, you know, there's been, you know, there was SARS and there's been some other viruses that haven't impacted the world in the same way. So we thought, okay, well, we'll still fly over, because I think the first show was in Singapore. So we flew over to Singapore, and then we had maybe another 10 shows in, like, we were going to go to Thailand, to Philippines, to Japan, it was like you said, it's like an Asian tour.
Yeah.
We played the first show in Singapore, and then every show after that started to cancel. It was almost like, I felt like we were on one of those bridges, like in an Indiana Jones movie, where the bridge starts to fall apart.
And you just keep running.
You're left. Yeah, you either keep running or you have to hold onto the one rope. So yeah, that was a real bummer. And but then we went on holiday. We were stuck in the Philippines, sort of. So we went to this tropical island for to cheer ourselves up for a bit. And that was cool. But yeah, I think that, you know, the strange part of it in terms of as a musician was that, like, I feel like you attune yourself to be ready for a cycle. So we thought we had another 6 months of touring, of quite heavy touring as well. And we'd already been touring for maybe a year. So once you're in that rhythm of tour, it's a very different you know, you're relying on adrenaline and you're in a kind of headspace that when that stops, it's kind of like the velocity you're traveling at is faster than
it's
life.
weird to get out, right?
Yeah, so that was definitely took some adjustment, you know. And then we had the first lockdown where we kind of did nothing, you know, we just stayed at home and
you were kind of split, right? Like split as well.
Yeah, so we went just back to our individual. Yeah, well, me and Jack went back to London,
okay.
And then we were. Yeah, obviously there wasn't no one was hanging out anyway. And Jimmy was in LA.
Yeah. And
then he kind of got trapped in LA, as in he couldn't fly back to the UK.
Yeah, it wasn't possible at some point, right?
Yeah. So he was stuck out there for quite a long time. But at the beginning we were kind of happy to just have a break, you know. I think because we were tired, and it took, as I said, it took some kind of readjustment mentally from not playing shows. And then I think we kind of had a second lockdown in the UK, and it was in the second lockdown where I think we started to make music, you know, and because we had to salvage something out of the time. And you know, for me, I started to definitely feel very restless. I was starting to feel
like trapped, right?
Trapped, and also just kind of, you know, losing myself to certain types of existential questions, just like, well, if I can't play shows and I can't make music, you know, what exactly is it that I do? Yeah, I'm surely I'm designed for more than just doing the laundry and the shopping.
Yeah, I see.
You know, but maybe not.
Yeah, and so as you said, like in the second lockdown, you guys came back together in Peckham, I think, right?
Yeah.
And started like to work on new music and shape this record. And as you said, was that something that like helped you guys to keep yourself sane at all, like in this very weird time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, I think without it, I mean, I dread to think what it would have been like without it, but we had a purpose, you know, and so Jimmy managed to come back from LA. I'd already started writing some ideas, you know, I had some demos and stuff going, and we'd been sending some bits to each other. We had like a small studio room, you know, that was walking distance from where we all live.
Yeah.
And we would just walk down the empty streets. And, you know, Peckham is, that part of London is usually very like noisy and vibrant and cool and lively. And it was just very strange, you know, it'd be totally desolate. But so we felt like we almost had a secret purpose, you know, we were kind of secretively going to the studio, and we would go there and then we would write maybe 6-7 hours a day.
Yeah.
And we managed to write ourselves out of the situation in a way. It would be kind of a reprieve from all of the negativity when we were in that room.
Yeah, it's weird because like whenever I speak to artists, like nobody wants to like write or produce like a COVID album or like pandemic album or a lockdown album. But then again, it's been such a huge part of our lives, like for those past 2 years. So it's really hard to ignore it, right? So in what way the pandemic or the situation surrounding you when making this music influenced the album?
Well, I think that there were probably two main forces on it. So normally, you know, I think on a personal level, I'm quite attracted to darker themes and certainly lyrically, and also, you know, we've written lots of songs over the years that are either like quite introverted or melancholic, or and because of the environment of what was going on in reality, I think that we were pushed to look for something that was more optimistic. So we kind of reacted against the darkness of the reality by kind of throwing ourselves into something that was more joyful than perhaps it would have been. You know, if things were more like they had been pre-COVID. You know, the album we wrote before Life Is Yours was a darker record that was dealing with. So that was one big thing, and I guess with the lyrics specifically, it's kind of like I like to be in touch with culture, you know, like when I'm writing lyrics, I often will take inspiration from traveling, from people, from a kind of a rich tapestry of what is actually happening in the world. Yeah. And all of that felt like it was put on mute. You know, there was nothing to draw on. So I think that in terms of the lyrics, it made me have to approach it in a different way, which was a challenge, and it meant that I kind of I had to just go at the lyrics from a different way, because normally I'd be feeling like I'd be pulling like a rope from the outside into the song, but this time there was nothing at the end of the rope.
Yeah, to draw from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask next, because like there was basically no experience to be made or to be had, right? And like there was no opportunity to go out or to see friends or to go touring, whatever. And so what was your way of like, what were the things that you were able to draw from? Was it rather like maybe like memories from the past as well? Because I feel like in a way, Life Is Yours kind of takes back like to your earlier work, or like to your earlier times as a band as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the things, you know. I think that the album kind of casts it's looking to the future, but it also is checking over its shoulder sometimes. You know, it's so. That was definitely there. There were kind of three, you know, what like three kind of modes of the, you know, what one of the ways that I'd approach the lyrics would be to literally kind of conjure up a nostalgic or a not even necessarily romanticized, but a kind of a vivid impression that I'd have from the past. So there's a song called 2001, and that song literally takes place in Brighton when we first moved there when we were like 19, you know, and I was drawing off past experience. The other ones would be more just because the room we were writing in as well was so barren. It was like a very Spartan room. There was no color and no joy in it. So it almost forced me to just kind of transport. So that's why that some of the songs are taking place like in the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean or on an island, or I just wanted to use the songs as like vessels to transport either to the past or to another part of the world or into the future. Yeah. And with the future, it was more like wanting to have songs that would be there ready for when the world re-emerged, you know, and then and to kind of tap into how the future would perceive this moment now that we're kind of in, you know?
Yeah, and like be an anthem maybe as well, like for that time when things are getting better, right?
Yeah, and partly just because we missed it so much. We just want, you know, we were craving live music and sociability so much that we wanted that I think that just bled into the music to make music that would be there for when that re-emerged.
Yeah. And so another thing that I imagine must have been like a real challenge for you, like for Foals as a band, is like moving on as a trio, right? Because I think Walter left in 2018, right? And then Edwin left in 2021. Like it's been some months now and some years, like in a way. Do you feel like you're already getting comfortable or used to being a trio and just like being three of you?
You know, when I look at like photos of us and it's just the three of us, I find that weird, you know? Yeah. Because I'm used to it. In my mind, the band...
Hey, there are two guys missing, right?
Yeah, kind of. And I don't know if my mind will ever get used to that visual impression of the three. But, you know, the interesting thing is like... In terms of playing the shows, like these shows we've just been playing and that we're playing at the moment, it kind of doesn't feel different at all on stage, you know?
Okay.
And if anything, I feel like we're playing, you know, as good, if not better than we ever have. And that's kind of interesting because it makes me wonder it makes you question exactly what is the band, you know? Yeah. Is the band the songs? Is it just playing the songs? Like, is it the world of the songs? Or is it, as I always thought it was, is it, you know, that for me the band was a family, you know.
Yeah, sure.
But when you do lose people from that, then it makes you question it. I think that, you know, thankfully the nucleus of the band musically is the three of us, and kind of always was. Yeah. So we didn't lose something that would be so wounding for us to be able to keep creating. Like we've been able to keep creating in a way that feels similar. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we miss them a lot. You know, it'd be great if maybe down the line we'll do like a kind of we'll do like some sort of anniversary tour where it's all five of us.
Or have them like for a few shows, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll see.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. And so I also want to get into one of the songs from the album specifically. You spoke about 2001 earlier, and I want to speak about 2 AM,
yes,
which you shot like an amazing video for as well. Mm-hmm. If you out there didn't watch that, go check it out. It's like an excellent video.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, and what some people might not know is that you actually shot this video in Kiev.
Yes.
Back in January, I think, right? And
just before things got bad,
yeah, because like there's a war raging there, and like it started just basically weeks after you leaving, And so looking back on that in hindsight, it must be like very surreal, right?
Yeah.
Can you remember how everybody was, or like how you were feeling on set? Like, was there already something like this threat of war happening in the air, lingering in the air?
I mean, you know, everyone was obviously aware that there was like there were troops building up on the border.
Yeah.
But that had been going on for months, you know. I think that there was this is both shared by us, like in our team and in the UK, like in the press, but also with the director and we were having discussions with the director and the directors and the people in the video in the Ukraine about the situation, because we didn't think it would be appropriate, obviously, to fly over and try and commence a video if
so dangerous.
Yeah, if it was going to be dangerous, and then but we all, everyone was just like, oh well, you know, they didn't foresee there actually being. Yeah. People thought that there's a term in English called saber rattling, which is, you know, shaking a sword.
And that's been going on like for years. For years, right?
Yeah, in certain ways, you know, no one foresaw what was coming in our world, and so we went there and we had, I mean, it was amazing. You know, I've been to Kiev a few times. We've actually shot another video there before, and it's always been amazing. And this specific director, Tanu Muino, is amazing young director, and we were really excited to work with them. We went there and it was awesome. You know, we went out for dinner. We hung out. The video went great. All the dancers and all the choreographers and the set designers. And
it's amazing.
Yeah, everything was great, and there was no heaviness on set, and it didn't seem to be a trepidation about that something was impending.
Yeah. I think nobody really saw it coming, right? Like until it happened.
Yeah. And I've seen the director since. I mean, I saw her a couple of weeks ago, and she said that was the last night that we went out. We kind of had a party after the video. Yeah. And that was the last night that they went out, and it's I mean, it's tragic. It's almost quite, I find it quite chilling in a way to watch the video now, because also the video is quite a joyful video in many ways, and it's full of youth and color and optimism, and you know, people that were involved in the video are now embroiled in the war in some capacity. So it's it's quite a strange feeling to have made the video and for the shadow of war then to have descended so quickly after.
It's such a stark contrast, right? Because the video is, as you said, really artsy and joyful, and like war seems like it's such a cruel and primitive and brutal thing. Yeah. And it's insane. How has this affected you like ever since? Because like for me or for many other artists that I spoke to, it feels like a very strange time to just do like promotion interviews and like just to keep doing your usual everyday stuff, right? Yeah. With that shadow of war hanging over everything. How has that affected you? And you said you were able to meet up with the director like later on as well. But have you been in contact with any of the people who were on that set?
I mean, mainly the director and the director of photography and the producers and stuff. I spoke to the choreographer early on. But, you know, normally I probably wouldn't, you know, that's, you know, on video shoots it's quite difficult to talk to a lot of people sometimes. But it does feel strange. It feels strange that in one part of the world, and particularly if we're talking about, you know, things in an artistic sphere. So like, you know, we went and we made art there with people, and then from one day to next, it's like all of a sudden art is just brutalized, and it seems like it's in comparison to the kind of the scale and the brutality of war, that art is somehow like devoured by it. Yeah. And then yeah, it does raise questions of like, oh, does it seem frivolous to be promoting something or to be involved in these things? But actually, you know, in the bigger scheme of things, I think that like music and art an expression of all types is kind of, it's one of the only responses to brutality. Yeah. And all through history, you know, some of the, you know, when there's been great conflict, there's also been great art, and I think that they're not, I don't view them in kind of, I think that if anything, there's more of a necessity to have music and to have art and to have creativity, because it's the art, I mean, it's the antidote. Yeah. In some ways, you know, so.
It's the thing that you can offer as a band, right?
Yeah, and it's also, you know, for me, it's a vocation. It's like, if you confront me with anything, my response to that is either going to be to write words about it or to make music about it.
Yeah.
And that's my purpose. So, but yeah, it's strange. I mean, obviously, I just feel bad for the people that are in Ukraine, and you know, especially with the video that like I got to fly out of Kiev. You know? And other people didn't.
You were in a different position.
Yeah,
I see. And so you didn't only do this excellent video for 2 AM with very interesting people.
Yeah.
You worked with very different and very interesting people throughout the whole album, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like most artists tend to rather have one person or like a small group of people oversee the whole album and work with them. Why did you guys think that would be like a good idea to switch things up and have different collaborators work with you? So, I mean, we tend just to kind of think that often like a new idea is a good idea, even if it isn't. So on this situation, we hadn't worked with multiple producers, you know, ever. Yeah, it did seem kind of counterintuitive to being in a band. You know, normally like bands work with one producer. I'd produced the record before, so maybe some of it was that, like, that was quite exhausting. So I think we knew that we wanted to work with a producer, and I think it's difficult to choose one, you know. Also, the fact that there was 3 of us meant that there was kind of more room within the songs to have producers come in and out and like add layers. Yeah, there was more space to be filled out, right? Yeah, because when there was 5 of us, it was like there wasn't a lot of leg room for the producer, you know. They were kind of trapped. Yeah, because everybody need their spotlight as well, right? Yeah, and you just have too many ideas, you know, and then it becomes, you overwhelm the song. But yeah, it was really exciting, and I think we worked with some amazing producers and different types of producers. You know, we had John Hill in LA. We would record with this guy Dan Carey in South London, who works with lots of awesome experimental underground, up and coming like post-punk bands in the UK. We'd record something with him, we'd send it to John Hill, who's kind of more of a pop producer in some ways. In LA, he would send ideas back. We would then go and we would work with, you know, AK Paul or Miles James, and you know, in different studios around London. And it was just kind of, it was amazing. It just felt really free, and it felt that all the decisions were dictated by what we would hear back from the speakers. Yeah. I think it made the record a lot richer. And everybody adds their own little spin and own little magic to it, right? Yeah, and it's kind of like, it made something more, I don't know, just more beautifully layered. Like when I listen to the record, I can hear all these different people's ideas in the songs and stuff in a way that makes it just shimmer more. Yeah, and yeah, it's cool. It could have been a terrible idea. You know, it could have been like there would be too many disparate influences, but it's worked out well, and you know, and actually it's probably the most cohesive record we've made. So that's interesting that the more producers that were involved, the more, you know, the more it's tied together. It helps to clarify your identity as a band, because everybody just comes in and you know, like adds different stuff, but like as a trio as well, you can highlight what Foals actually is. Right? Yeah. Wrapping up here, I want to speak about the future, because I feel like Life Is Yours is an album that very much looks into the future in a very optimistic way, and is really like dancey and an extrovert while doing so. So do you have any idea or any wish on how social life, or maybe like even like especially nightlife, is going to be now in those hopefully post-COVID times, now that the pandemic is like, it seems to ease up a bit? Yeah, I mean, I just want it to be the sort of best summer, you know, in living memory, really. Yeah. I don't know how it is in Germany, but I imagine that it's, you know, under similar pressures. But like in the UK, like we've lost a lot of our spaces. We've lost a lot of the cultural institutions as well, right? Yeah, and like I just kind of I feel like it's up to us to reclaim those spaces, like throw parties in the warehouse, in the car park, in the park. I think that there was a spirit, like, you know, maybe in the early 90s, especially in England, where like the rave scene was happening, and people just would take a generator and like send out, you know, have flyers and stuff, and people would just descend. And I think that DIY
reclamation of space in order to have a communion and to have people come together and have an amazing time is what's important. And I think that it has to be self-generated. I don't think we can wait for like some businessman to open up a club, you know, like, because they're not going to. They're just going to open up condos, and so for me, what would be really exciting is to feel that there's a kind of grassroots expression of nightlife through music and people coming together, enjoying what it is to be alive and to be a human being and socialize and have ecstatic, awesome times after the darkness that's been the last couple of years.
Well, I can just agree with you. Like, I really hope that this vision is coming to be, and I really hope, or I can see your album "Life Is Yours" being a part of it, because it's so disco and dancey and optimistic. And so that's been it for me. Cool. Thank you so much for your time,
Pleasure.
Yannis. It was a pleasure for me, and I'd say. For the last bit, the stage is yours. If you want to, you can just add anything. Last words are yours. Thank you so much.
Life is yours.